You give them a vision, it doesn't matter who they are. Whether they're from UP, Kashmir, anywhere. They will engage with you. You build trust with them, they will engage with you. It's not complicated. The reason it doesn't happen, those are complicated.
What about the current strategic? Harsh, you want to ask the next questions?
I think we've gotten quite a few questions.
But what amazed me,
Go ahead.
sorry, I'm passionate about this because for me, the Jammu Kashmir question is a very important question for our future. You know what amazed me was 9 years of work. Going there, talking to people, 9 years, 30 days destroyed. 30 days. And it blew my mind. I was so sad. I was like, my God, 9 years. And it can just be wiped out in 30 days.
We've gotten quite a few questions on your view of the Modi government's performance. I know you mentioned a couple of things in your speech: demonetization, polarization, violence. What are the 2 or 3 key things that you wish they could improve on? And maybe the second part, what are 1 or 2 things that you think the government's actually doing well?
See, I'm an opposition leader, but Mr. Modi is also my Prime Minister. Mr. Modi has certain skills. He's a very good communicator, probably much better than me. He understands how to give a message to 3 or 4 different groups in a crowd. So his messaging ability is very subtle and very effective. What I sense, and this is something that actually would be very good if it happened. What I sense is that he doesn't converse with the people he works with. I mean, even members of parliament of the BJP come to me and tell me that sunte nahi. Yeah.
No. Please, no, please.
This is not free speech if you're controlling what she asks.
I'll tell you what, I'll have a conversation with you after this. After that, you can share it with them, but I'll happily have a conversation.
Please go ahead.
Carry on.
What carry on? Where were we? We were on, you were
Modi,
talking
Mr.
about the Modi government's performance.
So one thing that I think would be good is if he would speak to the people who work with him. I mean, there's a lot of information that the opposition, for example, has. And he's not really interested in that input. So that's one aspect of it. On what they've done well, what I like the concept of Make in India. But the orientation of Make in India is slightly different than what I would do. So the orientation of Make in India is big business, and a lot of it is defense. My orientation of Make in India would be small and medium businesses. See, big businesses in India already have a lot of play. So my thing would be to carve out a space for small and medium businesses and bring in experts like you from Silicon Valley and actually think about taking these small and medium businesses and transforming them, as I said, into global companies. So I do agree with the idea of Make in India. I like it. Orientation slightly different. Swachh Bharat is something that Mr. Modi likes. The idea of hygiene, I think it's a good one. I don't think it's a bad one. And I think the sort of stuff that they're doing on open defecation and stuff like that, I think that's not a bad thing. I think on foreign policy, our basic design was have relationships with people around us. So we, of course, have a solid relationship with the United States that's only going to get better. And we accept that India and the United States are going to get closer. But we had a relationship with Russia. We had a certain relationship with Iran. So that balance, for example, Russia today is selling arms to Pakistan. It's not in our interest. They've never done it before. I mean, there are reports that the Russians are dealing with the Taliban. Unimaginable 10, 15 years ago. So, whereas I completely agree with their positioning as far as the US is concerned, I think they're making India vulnerable. Because if you look at Nepal, the Chinese are in there. If you look at Burma, the Chinese are there. If you look at Sri Lanka, the Chinese are there. If you look at Maldives, the Chinese are there. And in a lot of these places, these are tactical mistakes. Nepal was a tactical mistake. The blockade, there was a tactical mistake. You basically lost Nepal because you made a tactical mistake. So my disagreement in the basic direction, my agreement in the basic direction, I agree. Friendship with the United States, close bond with the United States. But don't isolate India because it gets dangerous.
Last question. You should ask the last question.
And, I think the last question we'll leave on a more personal note for many people in the audience. A lot of us navigating different career options, figuring out bachelor's to master's degree, grad school, then working in the private sector, public sector. You've navigated all of those before. What is your advice and what has your experience been navigating those career options and your advice to the students in this room?
That's a tough one. I don't know if you like this or not, but I came to the United States with the sense that there were many things that I could learn in the United States, and with the sense of, I learn a lot of this stuff here, and then I'll take it back to India and apply it, right? And this country, I studied here, and I must say, I'm very fond of this country and the people, especially of the United States of America. And I learned a hell of a lot from here. But what I found was when I took it back and I tried to apply it, you can't apply it directly. Because the structure and the architecture is completely different. So there's a process of learning from America, and then when you go back, there's a process of learning from India, relearning from India. And you have to work both those things. The thing I learned from college and university, how to deal with people, how to observe people, how to listen to people, that was very powerful. And I think that is the most important thing, much more important than the degree. I mean, I learned economics, and I can't recall when I sort of used what I learned in college in my work. I mean, it's been a long time. General principles you do use, of course, but specifics, not really. But watching people, listening to them from different cultures, getting a sense of where they're coming from, that's a very powerful thing. That to me is something that should be developed.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It's been a pleasure, and we can hope we get the chance to have more of these conversations. So thank you, everybody. I'm sorry if your question wasn't heard, but thank you. Really.
Thank you very much.
That was great. You're a nice man.